define a clear process, and then automate that process with custom GPTs if you need AI assistant only, or with low-code tools like make.com if you need an end-to-end process ready. I'm Victoria Olsina, and this is SEO in 2026.
Victoria, what's your number one SEO tip for 2026?
Yeah, my number one tip is to define an SEO process and then automate it with custom GPTs or no-code tools like make.com.
Superb. Okay, so how do you go about selecting the best process to define and focus on initially?
Well, I think that every person that does SEO, that has an SEO agency and has done, let's say, on-page optimization or an SEO audit 50 times, 100 times, 500 times, we have found ways to approach this problem, right? We have checklists, we have protocols, we have templates to do this task, right? Or at least I have. So once you have the process, the checklist, the protocol, it's very easy to give those instructions to AI in the form of custom GPTs or automations. So, I mean, if you define those modules manually, those steps manually, it's very easy to then have AI to assist you or to automate the process.
But in terms of selecting the best process to automate first, is it a process that you would manually do every week, or is it a process that perhaps can save you most money by automating? Is there any way that you select which process to automate first?
I generally do the things that I do the most, what requires most repetition. For example, on-page SEO or SEO briefs in my line of work for my clients is something that I do, that I'm doing constantly. That would be the best candidate. And that was, the first candidate, same as keyword research. I mean, keyword research, we use it all the time. So those were my two first candidates and the two SEO processes that I automated first with AI.
And then from there, defining the process is key, because as experienced SEOs, you know how to do something in your brain and you don't necessarily have the process defined. So how do you go about defining it to make sure that it's broken down step by step for the automation?
Yeah, I think that the easiest way, if you don't want to write it down, is to record it. Record yourself doing a keyword research or an on-page optimization, an SEO audit. Because when you're recording, you're going to do all of the things that you unconsciously or semi-consciously do.
Okay, so then you're recording it. So record it in video, and then do you write it down from there? Do you transcribe it, or do you maybe actually even get a virtual an assistant to actually come in and define the process from there?
So most video recording technologies right now have AI note taker or also automated transcription. So you can use any of those. If you have transcription, probably you have to take it to an AI to say, okay, define the process now. So you don't have the full block of text, right? So transcribing is automatic, and the step-by-step, you ask ChatGPT, Claude, any of those, or even I use Fireflies, and Fireflies had an AI embedded, so you could request things directly in that platform instead of going to ChatGPT to paste the transcript.
And can you summarize what Firefly is for anyone that doesn't know, please?
Yeah, Fireflies is an AI note taker, and it works across every platform. Because, for example, if you use Zoom, you're going to have the meeting, the transcript of those notes in Zoom. But if you use Zoom, Teams, and Google Meets, you might need a note taker that can take notes in all of those and centralize them in one place.
Got you. Sorry. And obviously, there's a couple of products out there called Firefly. So I was just trying to make sure that I was aware of which one you were referring to. There's Firefly.ai. There's Adobe Firefly as well.
Fireflies.ai is the note taker I was talking about.
Okay, superb. So we do that, and then it's a case of taking it into the AI that you're talking about to actually assist with the automation. So how do you select the AI to use for carrying out the automation?
After I have the steps defined, the first thing I do is to train a custom GPT with the instructions. And the instructions are the steps and also the way I want that output to be delivered, right? Is this output, does this output has to be a document, a formatted document, or does it have to be a spreadsheet? What does it have to be? And also custom GPTs, which I have spoken in the last two sessions that I had with you, or the previous session, is the GPTs that you can train. So if you have the ChatGPT Plus subscription, the one that is currently $20, you can create your own bots. And those are the $20 best spent in your life, I would say, because a custom process like the one I have just referred to, if you want to train a bot to do that, you can do it on custom GPTs. In the same way that if you want your bot to write like Shakespeare or David Bain or Victoria Olsina, you can train it with my output, with your output, with, I don't know, Shakespeare's books, sonnets, poetry, whatever plays, whatever is your top Shakespeare format.
Okay. Hopefully we're not automating in Shakespeare style. So, I mean, the question I was going to ask next was specifically, how do you set up the custom GPT and train it in order to actually make sure that it is as efficient and great as possible at this automation process that you want it to do for you?
Yeah. So in order to train a custom GPT, to set up an automation or to do anything, we need to do 5 things. First, we need clear instructions. Like, what is your assistant purpose, audience, rules, tone? What do you want it to do? And what are the things you want it to avoid? That's the first step. There's something called the CLEAR framework, which is used for prompting, which is very useful for this, which I can talk about the CLEAR framework if you want. The second step is add your content. And for me, this is key. So custom GPTs have a knowledge base, and you can drag and drop files into that knowledge base. Therefore, imagine if I want this SEO audit to be written in the style of Shakespeare, I would drag and drop Romeo and Juliet, King Lear, Hamlet. It will be a play. It will be written in the style of a Shakespeare play. And yeah, I have ideal samples of how this will be delivered, right? And a style of writing as well. Then the third step would be to set technical parameters, for example, the response length, or if you want this to be delivered as text or as a spreadsheet, for example. Then we test and refine. Very important. So we test it with realistic queries, and we see the answers, and then we tweak the instructions, or maybe we assess if there is more content that the knowledge base requires for high quality results. And the third one is that you can, this is really important, and this is why I prefer custom GPTs to Claude projects, is that you can share it. I can share this custom GPT with you and it's ready to go. If I was using Claude projects, I would have to share the instructions with you and you would have to train it in your own Claude space. But this one, I share it. And this is what I do with clients. I build their own custom GPTs and I share it with them. So it's ready to go and to be used by, I don't know, hundreds of people if you wanted to.
What makes you want to use custom GPTs instead of a service like make.com?
So I use custom GPTs when I have to iterate a lot with the AI. And that is to say, imagine open questions. For example, I have a client that does Bitcoin loans. An open question could be based on keyword research. Do I need? Would you call this product Bitcoin loans or Bitcoin finance? Let's discuss. Discussion requires back and forth, and you need a conversational bot to do that. Whether make.com, you need a process that is already defined. You give it the keyword, and then with this keyword, query neural writer or search for SEO, and give me the content brief for this query. There are no decisions taken. There is no discussion. So I generally go to make.com when my process is 100% defined and I know what happens after each module or each step, and there's no room for discussion.
Okay, got you. So when comparing make.com and custom GPTs, it's not a case of saying one is better over the other. It's saying make.com is perhaps more suitable for more simplistic processes that have been more defined, and custom GPTs can handle the full research phase as well as the creation of the automation that you're trying to do, and perhaps make it a little bit more original compared with something that's been set up on make.com. But it's not a case of saying less experienced SEOs should use make.com and more experienced SEOs should use custom GPTs.
No, both of them have a use case. Also, I think that custom GPTs are better for newer processes that haven't been totally defined yet. For make.com, you need the end-to-end process. Also, it's much harder to do it on make.com. Depending on the length of the automation, it will take much longer time to test and to test that each module works correctly. Whether custom GPT, you can train it. It depends on the complexity, between 15 minutes, half an hour if it's quite complex. And make.com automation, I have never done one in less than an hour. There is a lot of variables to consider, and things break. While you are defining modules on make.com, you realize, oh, but what if this happened? What if I don't have this variable? There is a lot of issues that will come up while you're trying to automate something end-to-end. So it's definitely much more time-consuming.
What is Model Context Protocol?
Yes, MCPs. So picture MCPs like the evolution of APIs. So with APIs, we can connect the data, let's say the data of keywords everywhere, to a custom GPT. I have a GPT that does AI keyword research. So it's a custom GPT that is connected to the Keywords Everywhere API. So that means that if I give the query, the country, the currency, and if it's and the intent, it will start doing the keyword research for me. Cool. Now I had to connect that API manually, and I did that by creating a JSON code, which I did it with AI. So it's not that I'm very far from being a genius. I'm just a curious mind. But I understand that if you're not a coder and you see that code, you might think I'm a genius. But MCPs is a connector that you just copy a URL or a very little script of text, a very short script, and it will make your AI ingest the data and work with the data of any platform that has an API. So it's a simplified API. You can do the same thing, but in one you have to do the API connection, and the other just click a button or enter a URL. So this was developed by Anthropic. Anthropic is a company that created Claude, but now MCPs are used like a universal connector. Yeah, imagine it's an adapter from American plugs into the weird plugs that we have in the UK. So something like that. It's a universal, you know what? It's a universal adapter. Imagine you have the data, and with this, you can convert to any LLM. So it's really cool. So the custom GPTs that I like the most are the ones that are connected to APIs, and I did those connections. So MCPs are not revolutionary for me in SEO, but they're really useful. I know that the MCPs are much cooler and much more on trend right now than custom GPTs, but you can do the same thing. It's just one needs a bit more coding.
On trend, how do you keep up with what is on trend and the technology that will have the biggest impact in your day-to-day life at the moment?
Yeah, I watch videos about AI and SEO every day for the last 3 years.
So just on your feed and on YouTube?
Well, on every platform that I'm on, you see on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on YouTube. I'm part of 3 different communities. So by osmosis, whatever social media I open, whatever I do, something about AI will come up. Whether it's news, general news, or, I don't know, for example, the other day, Gemini released the banana. There's not a social media I haven't opened where they are not talking about the banana, which is a photo model, which is really impressive. So I opened YouTube and I see people showing this. I open Instagram and I see people showing the same photo model. Everywhere I open, I see Gemini banana because it was launched last week.
Victoria, what's the key takeaway from the tip you shared today?
My key takeaway is to define a clear process and then automate that process. with custom GPTs if you need AI assistant only, or with low-code tools like Made.com if you need an end-to-end process ready.
Victoria Olsina is an AI consultant, and she runs her own agency over at victoriaolsina.com. Victoria, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2026.
Thank you, David. It has been a pleasure.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2026, the book, over at seoin2026.com.